Hello, this is Comedy Slab edition 136. And if Shane is laughing, that's because Shane is watching TV rather than listening to me. But it's lovely to have you along. I'm Adrian. I'm in the southeast of England. He's in the Midlands. I didn't know you got TV in the Midlands. Have you got transmitters?
We've only just got electricity, sir, but we're I don't know why I've got a West Country accent. I don't know what that's about.
I don't know. It's not very Midland.
It's because I was going through the program data and I just noticed Doc Martens on and
Oh, my favourite.
But yes.
So you've got your Doc Martens on. Anyway, that's not what we're putting on the slab of shame, or is it the slab of fame this week? It is encouraged, nay, chastened by a tweet from the marvellously named Blair Carlton, calling me out, really, that I claimed that we'd put Toast of London with Matt Berry on the slab previously, and it turns out we hadn't. We are correcting that this week, and I think it's, Series 3, Episode 5. I haven't got it in front of me now. I never have the right screen in front of me, but hey, that's my willful lack of preparation for you. But yes, thumbs up from his nibs via Skype from 170 miles north of here. Okay, so we'll get to that in a bit, but first we've got some comedy news in brief, if we can do anything in brief. Are you in your briefs?
I'm in my briefs right now. Can I just say I can't criticise you for saying that we'd slab Toast of London, because I remember nodding along sagely with you, thinking, oh yes,
yes,
absolutely.
I was going to say you didn't correct me.
Absolutely.
Well, the link was Matt Berry, wasn't it? Right actor, wrong show. And I was thinking of Year of the Rabbit, Bunny, and all of that.
I suppose the argument could be made that all these shows are the same and all run into one, but we'll see when we've done this, I guess, won't we?
Well, I do want to raise his performing style, shall we say? But hey, he's made a success of it. Now what you
launched the nuclear weapons? That was from Toast, wasn't it? He's doing a voiceover for a submarine.
I haven't got. Oh yes, with the famous Clem Fandango, who we'll also get to.
Wasn't this episode, sadly? Comedy news. Well, there's a few things batting about the place. The one that I noticed, only because of social media, gave it its turn in the barrel, which is basically what.
Is it shooting fish in the
what
barrel?
happens now on Twitter is that you look at a name. I don't know about you, but I look see what's trending, and I think, oh, whose turn is it in the barrel tonight? And they're just kicking seven shades out of somebody because they've said something, done something, not done something, not said something, worn something, eaten something, rubbed something all over them, or done something that warrants them getting all this torrents of abuse. And it was Frasier's turn, which I must admit, I've never been a massive fan of Frasier. I had a mate who we used to go drinking with when I was about 17, 18, 19 years old. We used to go to the pub on a Friday. It used to be on a Friday, didn't it, on Channel 4, about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it was a back from the pub show. Yeah, back
from the pub show. So I kind of used to watch it, and I used to think, it's all right, what kind of thing. Anyway, it's coming back. That was the news as well. I don't know. Do we go yay or do we go boo? I'm not sure.
No, I think we're. Look, the more comedy, the better, really. And if you throw enough mud at the wall, some of it will stick. It's a very unscientific and unflattering way of seeing it. But I'd be interested to see how it's done, and also any excuse to revisit Frasier. And that's another one before Mr. Carlton has to correct me. I think I am correct in saying, well, I know I'm absolutely sure we've never put Frasier on the slab. Is that because neither of us is too keen?
No, not really. I mean, we visited Seattle. When I say we, me and my wife, not me and Adrian, for anybody who's listening who thinks that we now go on holiday together.
Well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't remember going on holiday with you or having a nascent romance.
It's quite funny because, if you talk to anybody there, I mean, a few people mentioned Frasier on various tours and places that we went to see. I remember the one outstanding quote was although it's set in Seattle, it's only ever been filmed. They only ever filmed one episode of Frasier in the city, and that was the episode when Frasier got mugged. So they didn't win over any friends there. And
no, the mayor's not
and
too
also
pleased.
the interesting thing, we went on a boat trip around the harbour and that, around the coastline, and so the Fraser Tower block doesn't actually exist. They tell you this when you go out on.
Where he lives,
the fictional
show.
tower block where he lives. But there are two mast antenna things on the hillside, and they said if you imagine on the second one, halfway up, we've worked it out. That's kind of where his flat would be, his apartment would be, if it actually did exist. So they kind of trade off it in
that wouldn't be very
in the city.
comfortable,
But I mean, that obviously stung them. The fact that they only filmed the episode where he got mugged in the city. It was quite funny.
It isn't too flattering, is it? Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not. I'm guessing you're not a massive fan either, then.
Well, I feel I ought to be, and why do I feel that? Because people whose views I respect, and clearly I'm not including you in that number, but they are fans of the show. No, I mean I've got this strong feeling it is well written, and it's I just. Every time I have seen more than one, which is not like me, as you know. But then, of course, there have been whatever we'll find out one day, hundreds of episodes, certainly scores. I don't know. I never really warmed to it, and the best I manage is respecting it rather than warming to it, which is not quite enough to make you carry on watching it. But I think it is enough to put it on the slab and at least dissect it, and then perhaps we both understand a bit better why we don't warm to it, or perhaps we will belatedly warm to it, or even the revamped version.
My wife hates it. She really does, really detests it, and she doesn't really, she doesn't react that strongly to an awful lot of things, which is how I ended up marrying her, I think, partially. But
well, she hates you, but she managed to put that to one side.
Put it to the back of her.
It was the estate.
Put it to the back of her mind and move on. Yeah. But the thing that really used to wind me up about it was how it treated working in a radio station when they were on air. And I don't know if it's just the anorak in me, but anyone who's I've never seen I've never seen a TV program drama that isn't a documentary that accurately portrays what it's like to work in a radio studio.
I was going to say that TV never understands radio. It's as if it's utterly ignorant, and there's no excuse for that, is there? But they get away with it. That is part of it. I wouldn't think that's the major part of it. I think I've got the feeling it's an intellectual show, not highfalutin, but it's more intellect and less heart, and that's why there are sort of intellectual gags, which again it comes back to respecting it but not laughing along.
Anyway,
with
we're
it.
in danger of slabbing it if we carry on, aren't we? So maybe we better.
Well, I think we already have. So, well, thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Slab. We've run out of time to do Toast of London. Too bad. But hey, we had an interesting conversation about an entirely different show. We said we were going to do that in brief, didn't we? Wasn't that the original plan?
It sucked us in, didn't it? It's one of those where you kind of you don't really feel like you've got an opinion. Somebody stopped me in the street and said, "What do you think of Fraser?" I go, I really got a thought one way or the other. And then 20 minutes later, when they're still there and their ears are bleeding, you think, "Oh, actually, I might have an opinion. Maybe I did after all."
Yes. Well, shall we take that as a cue to move on to the show that we are meant to slab? Or did you want to very quickly squeeze in any other comedy news?
I don't think I could very quickly squeeze in anything. I think you're more shrewd to go with your plan A.
Taming of the Shrew. That's what we need to do with you. Okay, so I got thumbs up, didn't I, for Series 3, Episode 5 of Toast of London. Just to set the scene, I first came across this when I was recommended from multiple directions by actors. I don't know if you've got mates who are actors. I know you've mentioned a Hollywood actor who walks the dog near you.
Oh, when I lived at my old house, Penny
bells?
Considine used to live on the same road, yeah.
But that's where the recommendation for Toast of London came from, because clearly they're identifying something, even though it's fantastical and surreal, as we'll discover, for anyone who hasn't watched it just yet. It's obviously got enough grounding in reality that real live actors, who I'm pleased to count among my friends, they just love it to bits. I mean, it's pumped up to the max, but there has to be a kernel of truth in there. If not a corporal or possibly even a sergeant major of truth, which they are cluing into, and which is doing it for them. I mean, how did you come across Toast?
It's interesting you say that, though, because it doesn't really trade in reality, does it? I mean, it is surreal more than real, I think.
The style doesn't. No, the style doesn't. But I think for every exaggerated, surreal twist, there might be an underlying truth. No, I'm just working on that theory. Check with me at the end of the show, see if I still agree with myself.
In terms of how I came across this, I mean, I think it was just, keeping an eye on the trailers and that. I mean, I personally would watch anything with Matt Berry in. I do. I mean, I think I'm probably the only person who, besides him and his family, who sat through all 6 episodes of Snuffbox, his surreal sketch show that he did a while ago on, I think it was on Channel 4 as well. So I'm quite a fan of his, right. And that's how I ended up kind of coming across the thing. But I mean, I'm aware of the world of Soho and the voiceovers, which, I mean, he doesn't, as I remember, and I don't remember a lot of the episodes now, oddly, because I do kind of have a retentive memory for a lot of these things, but he didn't seem to do a lot of. He does more acting in this episode than I ever remember him doing in the other episodes of the remaining 3 series. It was all doing voiceovers, and he was trying to get acting work, wasn't he?
Yeah, I haven't dissected the series sufficiently. I've certainly watched more than one show, but no, you're absolutely right, and we actually see him on the stage, darling, in this one. That is I should say, the subtitle of this episode, if you didn't catch us trailing it last week, is Man of Sex. And hence the content of the show itself, the episode that we're putting on the slab, I would say is not for young people. But we're going to keep it clean ourselves, aren't we?
I did like the fact that the last line of the play, I truly am a man of sex, was the title of the play, which I thought was quite good. But yeah. It works well. But I think you might just hear that phrase in the second clip. We've got 2 audio clips. So yeah, he's an actor who, as Shane's just been saying, previously we've seen him struggle to find work. He's never quite reached what he thinks are his, the due rewards for his talent. Other people might disagree and think he's perfectly suited to the kind of work he gets. He doesn't deserve anything better. And there's a running gag about the same people in the control room always when he's doing voiceovers. The delightfully named Clem Fandango, and I've forgotten the other one for a moment. It will come back to us. Perhaps you know off the top of your head. It's Danny Bear, isn't it? Danny Bear and Clem Fandango.
I mean, there's a running gag about the names. I mean, the title of the show, Toast. They are surreal surnames, and there's a bit of a shopping list of surreal surnames in the show a bit later on. We will hear later from Doon McKeegan, who is, have I said that right?
Yeah, Doon McKeegan, yeah.
McKeegan. I always get nervous around the second syllable of her surname, but she plays his, well, I don't know if the term would be hapless agent. She seems fine. Like a lot of the characters, woefully out of tune with how she comes across to normal folk like you and me, viewers, as we're called. So she lives in a world of her own, a sort of fantasy world. But again, there is something of that in showbiz. Showbiz is, there is no business like show business, as the old song goes. Shall I talk us onto this clip then, which is an interesting one? You're a bit of a drummer, aren't you?
Bit of a what? Drummer?
A drummer, yeah. Well, a drama queen, but no, drummer musically as well as being a bassist.
Well, only in as much as whenever, I don't know if you know this, but whenever amateur bands rehearse, they go, should we have a break for 5 minutes and have a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever people wanted to do at rehearsal studios? And every band I've ever been in, it was like an unwritten cue that you could all go and swap instruments. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I think that is typical of band. In fact, David Bowie did a whole track with everyone on different instruments, and someone hit record.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? Yeah. But so I mean, yeah. So I think my ambition is greater than my ability. But go on. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, so you're not a doctor of drumming, unlike Stephen's
I've
new
not
girlfriend.
reached those heady heights of doctor of drumming. No, not.
Oh right. Well, I
hope
like
Verity Map. No, I haven't. No.
Verity Map. I'm glad someone's paying attention to her full name. Anyway, well, you will know drummers who just it's like actors who never come off stage. There are drummers who never stop drumming. I remember a mate of mine, fiercely, fantastically talented, but his mum used to complain he was always drumming on the dinner table. But drummers can't stop, and that's certainly true of Verity, who, when we're about to hear Stephen, he's going to her house for a hot date and a hot meal by the sound of things, but whether she's going to actually manage to leave the drum kit is to be seen, because when Stephen, as you'll hear, is knocking on the door, she's got a response, but it's not a verbal one.
Toast. There you are. Come in. It's open. Welcome to Chez Moi.
Oh, man, you ruined it right at the end. I was going to say that's a first for the Comedy Slab, 130-odd episodes, and we've never had a clip that actually had no words in it at all.
Oh, sorry. Would you like
you
me to cut
You
them off?
ruined it right at the end. No, it's great. There's an interesting story behind that. If you that I dug out. If you want me to tell you about it, do you want my headline first though?
The headline. Oh yes.
I won't hang about with it. My headline will be: I'm not buttering you up. It's just how I like my toast.
Oh.
I was.
I mean, I got the vibes. You're rather fond.
I was going to add at the end. I was going to say just how I like my toast. Well done, but.
Well, that was done as well.
Yeah.
An embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, I think it was. It's. I mean, there's so much to go at with this as well. I just wanted to mention that Sinead Mathews, who plays Verity, I don't know if you noticed. Do you know where you know her from? I don't know if you caught, because she looks very different in this.
No, shocked me.
I think she was in the episode we Slab, but she was a long-running cast member in Ideal with Johnny Vegas. She was the young girl who'd she go, "Are you all right? I'm all right." And later became his girlfriend in one of the later episodes.
It's not the one who was pregnant in the one.
That's it. That was her. Yeah.
Oh, it was her. Wow. But she is genuinely playing drums, isn't she? It's not.
No.
Is she not? Oh well, it's very well done. Then.
I thought she was, and then I did a bit of research, and I found an Instagram post of her saying, "Here I am with my drumming double for Toast of London." A lady called Louise Bartle, who in actual fact is the drummer in Block Party.
Wow. Well, at least it's a female, because I was going to go on my my Karen Carpenter sort of memory lane, because when I was growing up, that she was pretty much the only female drummer that you could see on the TV anyway, but fantastically talented herself. Oh well, so it's kind of good news, bad news.
Fantastically talented, but great big hairy arms. You couldn't help but notice. It was,
and the tattoos,
a sight to behold. Was it?
Boy, was she sweaty.
But yeah,
is that your fantasy that we've just?
I'm really glad you chose that scene as well, because kind of that, to me, that's Matt Berry inspired, because he's very into his music, isn't he, when he's not into his comedy?
Oh, of course, he's in a band, isn't he? Yeah,
and writes music as well. In fact, the theme music to Toast was written by him.
Yeah, that's I like that interesting fact. But well, it must. Do you think there's been some video trickery where part of the picture shows her? Because I mean, they're not shy. It's not one of those you used to get. Oh, someone would sit at the piano and then they would cut to a close-up of their hands, and you'd know it wasn't the actor playing the piano. Here we see the actor playing Verity in long shot. I mean, it's quite a visual clip as well as being quite a musical clip. It's cutting inside and outside, as you might have worked out, dear listener, from the way the sound levels go up and down, and then we cut outside and Stephen's knocking on the door and so on. But it wasn't shy about showing her apparently playing the drums, which I felt for.
And if you watch, I think if you watch it closely, you can see that some of it doesn't. Some of the longer shots with her don't kind of marry up, and some of them are better than others, kind of thing. But it doesn't ruin. I mean, it's such a clever. It's a call and response thing that's going on, which you probably wouldn't have picked up if you'd not seen the clip, but you've just heard that then, isn't it? It's like he starts it off by knocking at the door, and then she replies to that by playing the drums, and it's kind of backwards and forwards, and then she moves on to the pots and pans and all that kind of thing. So it is, you come out of that segment and you think, I don't really care how it's done because it is so unique and clever. That's how I felt about it anyway. I didn't kind of think, oh, she wasn't actually playing that bit there, and it didn't fully sync up with what I was hearing. You kind of think, no, it's a kind of clever sequence, and for some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't appear to go on too long. Those kind of things. You kind of think, yeah, I get it now, thanks. I'm good with it.
Well, for me, I was enjoying the gag. I mean, I thought the gag was, in a sense, in quotes, to completely contradict you, which is always entertaining. In a sense, the humour for me is because it's going on so long. Because the gag was clear from the beginning, from the knock, 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 but. And then that could have been the end of it. But I love the way he was trying all these different methods to get through to her, as it were. And he ends up trying to phone her. And then she's responding on the xylophone or whatever to the phone dialing tone. So I know what you mean. In the one sense, it doesn't go on too long because it doesn't fatigue, because it's forever changing. In another sense, the gag is that she's taking forever to actually acknowledge him, and then she says, the punchline that we heard, it's open. You could have walked.
No, it didn't come in anyway. Yeah,
which is it's brilliant game. Yeah,
I don't, the whole scripting of the thing as well. I think, I mean, when you consider that it's written by Matt Berry along with Arthur Mathews, of course, it's half the team that wrote things like Father Ted. As well as, I mean, he's been a gag writer for Catherine Tate. He wrote sketches for Big Train. He wrote material for Blue Jam. He wrote stuff for The Fast Show. He wrote stuff for The Day Today. He actually appeared in I'm Alan Partridge, didn't he? Him and Arthur Mathews and Graham Linehan, who wrote Father Ted, were the two Irishmen, of course, who he had a meeting with at the Linton Travel Tavern when he was going on about there's more to Ireland than this. That was Arthur.
Oh gosh, you say of course. I missed that subtlety, so thank you for pointing it out.
So I mean, this is a guy. I mean, Arthur Mathews is a guy who knows his way all around comedy. Knows where to park and knows how to get out before make sure he's missing the traffic. Do you know what I mean? He knows his craft, doesn't he? This guy.
Oh, clearly, yeah. But everything is larger than life, and I think on paper I wouldn't have got this show. It's not something, if I was in the position of a commissioner, which is, heaven help us if that ever happens, but I wouldn't have seen the humour of it. I don't think it would work on the page, but it's someone who, as you say, has got such a sense of comedy. It's a kind of, that he would have pictured it, I imagine, in his head. And then, of course, the show, as it were, lifts it off the page.
I mean, I'm guessing a lot of it here as well, but I do get the sense that because Matt Berry is such a surrealist, and Arthur Mathews, as you say, it is grounded in reality, but writ large, as it were. That I kind of think that kind of. The only thing sometimes I get a bit of a problem with Matt Berry is he's a bit like the Mighty Boosh guys, in as much as it kind of gets a bit too surreal. It's like surreal for surreal's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, let's deal with what you touched on earlier, which is he seems to. I mean, I've got this feeling that he could widen his range in terms of acting, but it seems from observing his work, he doesn't want to play a character other than the one that's everything is writ large. And even when he's doing voiceovers, or perhaps especially when he's doing voiceovers, people who listen to Absolute Radio, he is the man behind all their sort of voiced jingles or station IDs, or call them what you will, station audio furniture or whatever. And it's still the same character, isn't it, essentially? Does that frustrate you on, as it were, his behalf, or are you relaxed with that as perhaps he is?
You never know where these things come from, do you? And I was always minded of the fact when you see Kenneth Williams interviewed, he always talks about his days with Hancock and about how his character, they used to call it, I remember interviewing Alan Simpson and talking to him about the character, hello, that Kenneth Williams used to do, which when they wrote it, it was called the Snide. That was the character name, the Snide, and was the eventual undoing of, or I mean, if it was the undoing of him, of Kenneth Williams working with Tony Hancock, because that character was getting more laughs than Hancock was, and that was it. He was off. He was gone, and I remember Kenneth Williams saying that, he wasn't that bothered or enamoured with it, but people kept saying to him, "Oh, can you do that voice? Can you do it with do it in the Snide voice kind of thing?" So, if people are coming to Matt Berry and saying, "Do your Matt Berry shtick," or do what they think that is, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, although I get the feeling that, the pattern seemed to be set before. I was going to say before he hit the big time, but apparently we were talking about it last week. It could be, you never know in showbiz, do you? Nothing's certain there, but it could be the big time is yet to come and is about to come, because Toast is moving, as we were talking only last week, I think, or perhaps the week before, moving to BBC One, the big mainstream TV channel for those not in the UK. And we haven't even mentioned the wonderful Timothy West, who I believe we are, if I remember which bit I clipped all of an hour ago. Timothy West is in this episode and hopefully in this clip. The wonderfully named Ormond Sacker, who is... it likes the sauce, shall we say. Do you think? I always think when I see a character actor like that of such stature, I kind of think, are we? Does it matter that it's a good bit of kit to people like that? Because you can't. I kind of get the impression that Timothy West can very much pick and choose the roles that he does these days. And for him to say yes to something like that, he's in a way, he's giving it his rubber stamp, is he, do you think? Oh, yeah, that's the gut feeling I have. I doubt, and I mean, this certainly when it started out, it was, any show starting out is a minority taste, almost by definition. But this was never going to be anything other than, I think, slow burn from series one. And hence, they've possibly got a bit more money to splash out on series 3. But I think he wouldn't just do a gig these days just for the heck of it. It does feel like a passion project, and you could feel the love around him, I think. But it reminded me how good Timothy West is as a comedy.
Yeah, love and respect. I mean, the only reason I'm kind of familiar with Timothy West is that I kind of like the shows that he does, boating up and down the UK with his wife Prunella Scales, and he always comes across as such. Like when he's talking to members of the public or fellow actors, he always comes across, you think, he seems like a really nice guy and a guy you'd like to sit and have a chat with, about the stuff that he's done. So I just thought, it feels like a seal of approval. Anyway, sorry, you were about to launch into the second clip.
Yeah, well, we are at the theatre where the legendary Man of Sex is being performed. Indeed, the first of the performances has just finished. So where else to go, especially if you're Ormond Sacker, or indeed the wonderful agent herself, played by Dune McKeechan, Jane Plough, where else to retire to but the bar?
I think for an opening night that went rather well.
Would you put that on Toast's tab? Bless you, Ian.
I'd lose the Welsh accent, Toast. It's clearly not working.
I wasn't doing a piss-off purchase.
Come on, boys, let's not argue. time for a tiny celebration.
Before the reviews come in.
Jill Queer was outstanding. Is she coming along?
I saw her putting Ormond in his taxi.
Oh, good. He's being sensible, and he's promised to have that George Best operation. You know, the one that makes you physically sick if alcohol enters your bloodstream. Did it work for George? I think it did. Just, nip to the Lady Lou. Ormond, no, your taxi.
No, Ormond. You need to go home.
Oh, come on. Just one little drink won't do any harm. 'Tis an opening night after all. Just a tiny weeny little Scotchlet. All right, Toast? What'd you say?
Well, all right, just the one.
Cheers.
That kind of gag, and a big shout out as well to Harry Peacock, who plays Ray Purchase and his own albino brother, twin brother, I should say. That kind of gag where the guy said, "Oh no, I shouldn't have a drink" and whatever. I've seen done before in an Arthur Mathews comedy in Father Ted, in actual fact, where they have a TV personality come to the island. And he said, "Oh no, I had a real trouble with the alcohol." And he's going, "No, just one drink won't hurt you though." And then the next, it's like a cut scene. It's like the place is wrecked, and he's going, swines! They all did it to me. They ruined my career. And so I've seen that, but it never loses its appeal. It's still a funny setup, isn't it? Really, great casting. This, isn't there, Adrian? Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, and I was going to mention Robert Bathurst as Ed, who's the flatmate or housemate. Always good to see him, and always get good.
Did you ever see his? I sound like an old thespian now. Did you ever see his Wilson in Dad's Army reboot? Did you ever see?
I don't wish to see his Wilson. Thank you very much. That's not my style. I was going to say I did actually work with him once, but I can't remember the name of the show. But it was similarly surreal. How was his Wilson?
Awesome. He played Sergeant Wilson. You know, the John.
Did it stand to attention?
The John Lavizia role in Dad's Army. He worked on the reboot of Dad's Army, which was fraught with danger, wasn't it? Really, because it's a bit like trying to do a karaoke of a Queen number, isn't it? You know, you don't really want to go into that territory. But yeah, he played Sergeant Wilson, and he was fab. I mean, you can almost, it's almost like you can see him do it, can't you? It's a role he was born to do in a way.
Yes, and I can imagine that being in his palette of colours, because he does tend to be cast in the sort of gentler end of the spectrum, but he still gets his slightly caustic lines in, doesn't he? A little bit of
again,
dig
the clip you chose there, great choice of clip, but again, we never get the visuals. And the barman, what was that? I mean, how do you describe the barman in that pub? Did you see him? The guy with like the miserable-looking guy in the flat cap.
No, I think yes. Again, you've got a greater eye for visual detail. I anchor more on the actual words.
I found myself constantly looking past the actors to what was happening in the background. And I think that's a deliberate thing. I think it's deliberately set up like that to make you, to kind of, as a distraction, particularly second time around. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, what is he? He was like a really miserable, he was almost like a Victorian character, like in this shirt and a waistcoat, and really miserable looking with a big flat cap on. And he looked, for a boozer at a, near a theatre, he would just look so, it was so incongruous, but just hysterical to watch. I mean, it's brilliant performance.
Yeah. Just who was Jenny Spasm, previously mentioned? I mean, a delightful name, but I obviously blinked and missed her performance.
I don't know, played by Susanna Wise. I don't know. I'm not really quite sure.
I suppose it's that kind of thing that makes it possible to watch each episode more than once, and maybe that's what all this detail is about, or at least it's
given me a real hunger to go back and to revisit. I'll be honest with you. Can I just mention those names? You said there was one wonderful scene where Doom McKeegan, Toast Agent, was going through replacements, because by this stage, as if you didn't guess already, Ormond Sacker has well and truly fallen off the wagon, and was unable to continue. So she was going through a list on the phone, wasn't she, to Toast, and saying, and he said, well who have you tried? And she said, well, I've tried Baz Ravish, Tony Excalibur, Champion House, Cockamoo, Michael Prance, Church Weaver, and my favourite by a long way, Heathcote Pursuit, which it's do you know? And I wondered, do you remember the horse racing in the Day to Day when Alan Partridge was doing the horse racing news? And he was all these really weird horse racing names. And seeing that Arthur Mathews had worked on the Day to Day, I wonder if that was him as well. I wonder if he kind of comes up with these, sits down and writes these mad names.
It could be, but it made me think. Where did we hear, or where did I hear yonks ago for laughs, silly names like that? And it makes me think back to relatively early in Rowan Atkinson's career. Do you remember the Zob? Under manager, you know, he was calling the register, wasn't he? And and I guess that was probably inspired in turn by something from perhaps the 60s or the 50s even, for whoever was writing for him at that stage, if he wasn't writing.
Got to ask you, what did you think of the musical number? Because I forgot that it had them in it.
Oh, yes, it's an interesting one, isn't it? What did I think of it? I suppose I thought it didn't outstay its welcome, but I don't think I would have missed it either. It wasn't vital to the plot.
Yeah.
But it didn't hang around, and it was reasonably entertaining. Is that how you feel?
Exactly how I feel. It's exactly how I felt. It was that I kind of thought, oh no, if it was down to me, I'd have gone, oh no, leave it out. But as you rightly say, by the time you'd had that thought, it'd have gone anyway, hadn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And you do get a bit of sort of deliberately hammy acting in a car with a backdrop.
Yeah.
Which all looks a bit phony, but is meant to look phony, one assumes. Well, I think we can't put it off any longer. I've got a feeling we might get a reasonably healthy score between us. Is it my turn to go first?
Can I just mention as well, my favourite line was they were talking about Ormond Saka and saying about they'd had problems with him before. And I think this is a trend through that they mentioned Wendy Craig, but they said that Ormond Saka did a shit in Wendy Craig's muesli, which...
But she didn't notice. that creates quite a picture, doesn't it? Maybe for someone who's not a muesli fan who wrote that particular gag, I don't know.
I really laughed at that one.
But Wendy Craig she's a staple of gags like that. But yeah, it's just strange. But for people of a certain younger generation, it's Wendy.
Yeah, and because that's what makes the joke even better, doesn't it? Really, because Wendy Craig was, outwardly, I don't know what she was like to work with, but outwardly she appeared to be such a nice person, and she played really nice people on the TV, and so you assume that's who would do that, who'd be driven to do such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Wendy Craig. She goes for the next mouthful of muesli and, I don't know, could impair the flavour. You never know.
Love it.
Right, all of which, well, I'm going to volunteer to go first after I've given the credit to Objective Productions, which is, as we all know, an all-three media company. And, of course, it was made, I say of course, but it was made for Channel 4 as 2015 copyright. And in the UK, at least, you'll find it, as we speak, still streaming, and I would think for a reasonable length of time, if not all eternity, at channel4.com/all for the app. All for one and all for all. Anyway, 4 is the word, because it's, for me, it is a 4 out of 5. I've got to give this a good, healthy thumbs up.
For me, that's unequivocal, isn't it? There, I've never known you come to such a swift conclusion. For me, I'm gonna have to go one better and say it's a 4.5 for me.
One better surely would have been a 5 out of 5. I thought that might be nearly a world first.
Well, I suppose I said 1 because that's the increment in which we go up, isn't it? Really, so it's
okay. So. Did someone do some increment in your muesli then? Anyway,
4.5. I mean, this is in my all-time favourites. I was going to list the all-time favourite, but I mean, it's up there with the the Alan Partridges and stuff like that. I don't want to go into the list just in case any of them appear on the Comedy Slab, and then you think, well, I've given that away now. We know what he thinks about that. But yeah, it would be in my my Desert Island disc collection would certainly include so far all 3 series of Toast of London. 4.5 for me. So 8.5 out of 10 for Toast. Not bad.
We can only. Yeah, not bad at all, but we can only hope that the BBC One show lives up to that, although you've already expressed some nervousness that it might not. But hey, let's not damn it before we've seen it. It's in production or something very similar to that as we speak. So time for you to set me and the rest of us homework for next week.
Yeah, I've got memories of what they did with Alan Partridge last time out, but yeah. Mine is well, I won't hang about. Let me tell you, it's Mitchell and Webb.
Oh, nice one.
And it's we did Peep Show, didn't we? Did we do Peep Show? I'm sure we did.
I believe we did. Yes, just the one episode.
So obviously isn't that, but it is. I thought we'll go for something new, actually, new comedy, and this is just about to. In fact, I think it's out now, the second series. Although I was going to go for series 1, episode 1, because it sets the scene nicely, and gives us the whole setup. It's. Do you know which one I'm talking about? The Mitchell and Webb thing. That's just.
Is it called Back?
You're absolutely bang on, mate. It is. So, yeah.
Because I've seen the trails for it. Channel 4?
Channel 4 again, yes. So it's going to be on the All 4 website, so you can go. And I just checked before we did recording tonight, and you can actually get series. We're looking at series 1, as I say. We'll go series 1, episode 1, but series 2 has just. I think it's screening at the moment, but you can go and binge watch it on All 4 if you want to, because all 6 episodes are there. But yeah, it's the Mitchell and Webb series Back. And we'll have more of that for next week.
When we will be back as well. But in the meantime, do follow us on Twitter. We're at Comedy Slab. And indeed, we also have a Facebook page at Comedy Slab. I think there's been a resolution, I hear in the ether, although without having been across the detail of whatever I was whinging about last week. No, legitimate complaints about Facebook's behaviour down under. But hey, let's not dwell on that. But so it's quite legit to promote our Facebook page. Once again, that's how fickle I am. And also, recommendation in person or via Zoom, however you can do it legitimately, depending on how certain viruses are being hopefully quashed as we speak. So, share it with friends and family and anyone else who you think might be interested in the Comedy Slab. That's hugely appreciated. And lastly, a nice generous star rating on iTunes / Apple Podcasts. Thank you in advance for that.
Isn't it bizarre? You can't go and see your relatives, but you can actually write them a letter, cough all over it, slobber all over the envelope to close it up, and then post it off to them and let them get it within a day when the virus is still active. That's interesting. I've never really thought of that before, but... such is the fact that we write so few letters in this country now that the chances of catching anything from them are quite remote.
I do remember having a book out of the library where it was such an old book, but people would also say yes, and you're very old too, Adrian. It said it had a special label on it saying, do let us know if you have any notifiable diseases. That was the thing back in, I think it was a really ancient book from, 50 plus years ago. It doesn't mean that I got it out of the library that long ago, just pointing it out. It was an old book.
It was a book on research on notifiable diseases, so maybe they were just being lazy and just wanted people to contact them for their next volume, perhaps.
I suppose there is. Also, it was a scratch and sniff book, but I managed to resist doing either of those things.
Don't forget Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, Spotify. There's loads of different places that you can go and catch us if you want to, just like a notifiable disease. And so
this is degenerating, is it not?
So until next time, thank you very much for your company. I'm off to find Wendy Craig and make her some breakfast. I'm saying no more than that.
And yes, and I'm going to be cultivating some haggis for that breakfast as well, I think, which tastes, funny enough, like muesli.